Leah adjusted her easel beneath the sprawling olive tree, the soft hum of cicadas filling the worn Mediterranean air. Her paint-stained fingers moved quickly, capturing the golden shimmer of sunlight on silvery leaves. She'd only been in the village for a week, yet the slow pace had already slipped into her bones, soothing the restlessness that had trailed her across continents. The olive grove belonged to Elias, though Leah hadn't met him yet. The villagers spoke of him in hushed tones. "He's a good man, but always alone," whispered Maria, the baker's wife, as she handed Leah a slice of orange cake. "Leaves before dawn, returns after dusk. You'll see him soon enough." On the seventh morning, Leah's brush faltered as the crunch of boots startled her. A tall figure approached, the sun casting him in shadow. He didn't speak, just nodded with a quiet gravity, and knelt beside a gnarled tree, tugging at stubborn weeds. "You must be Elias," Leah ventured, breaking the silence. Her English carried the gentle lilt of her home, far away. He glanced her way, dark hair tumbling into his eyes, and nodded again. "Leah," she added, offering her name and a hesitant smile. "I hope I'm not in your way." He shook his head, lips twitching, in what might have been the beginning of a smile. "It's good to see someone enjoying the trees. Most people forget how old they are." She angled her sketchbook so he could see. "They have character. I think trees remember things." Elias studied her quietly, then reached for a stray branch. "They remember, yes. Some things are harder to forget." There was a long pause, filled with birdsong and the low rustle of leaves. When he stood up, their eyes met, a fleeting look of understanding lingering there. "Would you like some figs?" Elias asked finally, gesturing toward a nearby basket. She accepted, savoring their sweetness, and for the first time since arriving, Leah didn't feel entirely alone. That evening, while painting the sun's fiery descent behind the hills, Leah caught herself thinking, not just about the landscape's beauty, but about the gentle, haunted man who tended its roots. The next morning, Leah found herself wandering toward the olive grove, long before breakfast, drawn by the memory of Elias's cautious smile and the peace she'd felt beneath the ancient branches. The village yawned to life with the gentle clatter of shutters and the scent of baking bread drifting down cobblestone lanes. Elias was already at work, repairing the low stone wall at the grove's edge. He paused when he noticed Leah, eyes flicking to her unfinished sketchbook. "You're up early," he remarked, his voice rough but with a gentle undertone. "Couldn't sleep," Leah replied, blushing. "Too many paintings in my head." A faint grin tugged at the corner of his mouth. "I know the feeling. Sometimes I count the olives instead." Leah laughed, delighted by his honesty. Encouraged, she settled beside the wall and pulled out her paints. For a while, they worked in companionable silence, Elias stacking stones, Leah capturing the dappled light above. Birds swooped through the trees, scattering shadows across his weathered hands. "Do you ever paint people?" Elias asked, surprising her. "Sometimes, but I'm better with landscapes. People are trickier. Too many secrets." He nodded, a shadow crossing his features. After a long pause, he said quietly, "Secrets are hard to keep in a village like this." She glanced at him, sensing deeper currents beneath his words. But before she could ask more, Maria called from the road, waving a basket. "Breakfast!" They joined Maria beneath the olive tree, sharing warm bread smeared with honey and fresh cheese. Leah noticed Elias relax, laughing quietly at Maria's jokes. She felt herself drawn to the change in him, to the possibility that lay beneath their guarded exchanges. As the sun rose higher, Leah reseated her canvas. "Would you mind if I painted you? Just your hands, maybe. They belong here." Elias hesitated, then nodded. He rested his palms atop the sun-bleached rocks, letting her study the lines and scars. Time slowed as Leah traced her brush over the canvas, capturing the silent strength that emanated from him. Their eyes met above the easel, and Leah realized that beneath his quiet exterior, Elias carried stories as old and intricate as the olive trees themselves. She wanted to know each one. Leah spent the afternoon wandering the village square as the scent of roasting herbs drifted from every kitchen window. Her sketches piled up, market stalls bursting with sun-ripe tomatoes, a grandmother's laughter at the well, children racing bicycles past weathered doors. Yet her mind returned to the olive grove and to Elias, his hands stilled just long enough to share her canvas. As dusk painted the sea in shades of amethyst, Leah packed up and wandered back. The gentle glow of lanterns guided her to the grove. A soft rustle caught her attention. Elias, perched quietly on the same old wall, a mug of tea steaming between his palms. "You finished for the day?" Leah asked, sitting beside him. He nodded, staring into the deepening dark. "Harvest begins tomorrow. It's always the hardest day." She drew her knees up, wrapping her arms around them. "I've never seen an olive harvest. I'd like to help." Elias looked at her, surprised. "It's not easy work. Hard on your hands." She flexed her paint-stained fingers, grinning. "Mine don't mind a challenge. Besides, maybe you'll let me sketch the harvesters." He chuckled, a sound richer than she'd heard before. "You're persistent." The conversation faded, replaced by a comfortable silence. Above them, the sky unfurled a tapestry of stars. Leah found herself daring to ask, "Can I ask you something personal?" Elias's jaw tensed, but he nodded. "Why do you live alone out here?" He didn't answer right away. His fingers tightened around the mug. "Some roots run deep. Others are still healing from old wounds," he said at last, voice barely above a whisper. "It's easier sometimes to stay where it's quiet." The ache in his words lingered between them. Leah glanced at him, gently. "I came here because I was running from something I didn't want to face. Maybe we aren't so different." He met her eyes, the wall of reserve lowering for just a moment. "Maybe we aren't." The air grew colder. Elias stood, extending a hand to help her up, his touch warm and unexpected. As she followed him through the moonlit grove, Leah realized she wanted to be part of his story, not just as an artist, but as something more. She just wasn't sure if Elias would ever let her in. Morning broke golden and clear, and the village buzzed with anticipation. Leah arrived at the grove just as the first harvesters gathered, wicker baskets slung over their shoulders, their laughter ringing above the songbirds. She felt strangely nervous, wanting to belong, to prove herself, not just to the villagers, but most of all to Elias. Elias moved through the crowd with quiet authority. He greeted Leah with a nod, but a fleeting smile softened his eyes. He handed her a basket. "Ready?" "Ready as I'll ever be," she grinned, feigning confidence. He demonstrated how to twist the olives gently from their stems, and Leah mimicked his motions, her fingers brushing the fruit, careful not to bruise them. She snuck glances at Elias as he worked, sun glinting off his brow, lips set in focus. When he noticed, he only shrugged and muttered, "You're a natural." The work was hard, but strangely satisfying. Maria brought sweet tea and sticky pastries, and the harvesters paused under the shade of the largest olive tree to share stories. Leah sat close to Elias, sketching quickly as faces lit with laughter, and old men gestured grandly while recounting memories of past seasons. "How long is the harvest?" she asked quietly as the group dispersed. "About 4 days, if the weather holds," Elias replied, inspecting her hands. "No blisters yet?" She showed him her stained palms, proud. "Not yet. Told you. You were made for this," he said, half teasing, half tender. They returned to the trees, rhythm settling between them. When she dropped her first basket, olives scattering like marbles, Elias crouched to help. Their heads bumped as they both reached for the same fruit, and for a moment they were breathless and close, laughter bridging the gap. As the sun began its slow descent, the labor slowed, and Elias walked her to the edge of the grove. "Are you coming back tomorrow?" he asked. She met his gaze, heart fluttering. "If you'll let me." "I'd like that," he answered, voice low. For the first time, Leah saw hope flicker in his eyes. She turned for home, the crunch of gravel loud in her ears, wishing for the courage to reach for his hand. Maybe tomorrow, she thought. Maybe tomorrow. The days unfolded with a hypnotic rhythm. Sunup in the olive grove, midday breaks in the shade, afternoons filled with laughter and music from someone's portable radio. Leah grew accustomed to the ache in her back and the feel of sun-warmed fruit tumbling into her basket. But more than anything, she grew used to Elias's quiet presence. On the second harvest day, a sudden summer rain forced everyone to scurry under the canvas tarps. The group huddled close, sharing slices of salty cheese and stories about childhood games played in the rain. In the cozy chaos, Leah found herself pressed shoulder to shoulder with Elias. When lightning crackled above the hills, she started, and he instinctively reached for her hand. She let her fingers curl around his, their connection as natural as drawing breath. After the rain stopped, only Leah and Elias remained under the canvas, watching the drops slip like diamonds from the edges. He released her hand with a soft, apologetic laugh. "Sorry, old habit. He trailed off, his eyes distant. "Someone you loved was afraid of storms?" Leah guessed, her voice gentle. He exhaled sharply. "My sister. She died a few years ago. I still find myself reaching out in storms." The ache in his words almost undid her. Leah squeezed his hand, neither of them moving to let go again. She searched his face, finding pain, but also warmth, gratitude. Someone letting himself be held together, if only for a moment. "Thank you for telling me," she said, her voice soft. "You make it easy," he admitted, surprising them both. A subtle breeze brushed through the grove, scattering the bittersweet moment. They stood, collecting their things, but the closeness lingered like the scent of fresh rain. By sunset, the grove's laughter echoed with a new softness. Leah couldn't stop looking at Elias, wondering which memories flickered behind his gaze, and if she could give him better ones, in time. That night, As she finished a painting of the rain-cloaked trees, Leah tucked a note into her sketchbook. Tomorrow, ask him what gives him hope. By the third day of the harvest, the grove pulsed with the low chorus of distant sea waves and the heady scent of crushed grasses. Leah arrived earlier than usual, her sketchbook under one arm, her question to Elias swirling in her thoughts. She found him alone, tying new sacks to the wagon. "Morning," she called, her tone playful. "Sleep well?" He looked up, his eyes lingering on her with recognition and, she hoped, fondness. "As well as you can during harvest. Any more blisters?" She shook her head, suppressing a grin. "No blisters, but I think the olives are winning." He smiled, rare as sunlight between clouds. "You'll get your revenge at dinner. Maria's making her famous olive stew for everyone tonight." They set about their work, the moments of quiet growing comfortable rather than awkward. After a while, Leah summoned her courage. "Elias, can I ask you something?" He glanced at her, cautious but open. "Of course." She flipped to yesterday's note in her sketchbook, tapping the words. "What gives you hope, even when things hurt?" He paused, considering. The other picker's laughter faded, so only the soft buzz of bees filled the space between them. "Hope isn't something I've thought much about, not since my sister." He trailed off and shrugged. "But lately," he continued, voice shy but strong, "it's small things, like a day with no storms, or someone new who doesn't leave when things get quiet. Or the chance to teach someone how to love these trees." Leah's heart thumped. For a moment, she thought to reach for him, but instead she simply smiled, letting the quiet stretch, holding his gaze longer than before. "You give me hope too," she whispered. Before he could reply, Maria appeared, summoning everyone to a communal meal beneath the trees. There, shoulder to shoulder with the villagers, steam rising from earthen bowls. Leah and Elias exchanged shy glances and shared bread, laughter, and a hope fragile as olive blossoms in early spring. That night, as Leah walked home through darkening fields, her heart was buoyant with possibility. Something was shifting inside her, and she sensed it was happening to Elias too. Perhaps love, she thought, blooms slowest in the gentlest soil. Harvest ended with laughter swirling through the olive trees and hands sticky from the last baskets of fruit. That evening, a village celebration filled the square with lamplight and music. Leah wore a simple sundress, her hair swept back as she watched children weave between the tables and older couples twirl in time to a violin's waltz. Elias arrived late, freshly shaven, his normal reticence replaced by a subtle glow. Spotting Leah, he raised a shy hand. "You clean up well," she teased, motioning for him to join her at a table. He sat, eyes glancing over her sketchbook. "You've been busy." Leah leafed through pages filled with the faces of villagers, the olive trees in every season, and, tucked in the middle, sketches of Elias, gathering olives, sitting on the wall, a fleeting smile. His cheeks flushed as he lingered over these. "Is it strange, seeing yourself like this?" Leah asked softly. He considered. "No one's ever really seen me before. Not like this." They lapsed into a silence just on the cusp of something deeper. The band struck up a gentle melody, and Maria, ever meddling, called out, "Dance with her, Elias, before she runs back to the city." Elias hesitated, his discomfort plain, but Leah grinned and rose, extending her hand. "Come on, I promise you can lead." After a moment, he took her hand, his touch unfamiliar yet warm. She guided him to the center of the square. They swayed shyly at first, but slowly fell in sync. Around them, the village faded away. Leah, emboldened, whispered, "You're braver than you know, Elias." He stopped, searching her face. "Only because you're here." His words held a tremor of vulnerability, the guard he'd kept so long lowering in the moonlit air. The music lingered. Neither wanted to let go, but when the song ended, the world swept back to greet them. Yet something invisible and lasting had taken root. Later, when he walked her home through lantern-lit streets, Elias brushed Leah's hand with his, not quite holding it, but their arms remained pressed close, hope and longing quietly entwined. That night, Leah stared at the ceiling, realizing just how much her art and her heart were now tangled up among the olive trees and the man tending them. The boundary between muse and lover grew thin as dawn crept closer. Days after the festival slipped by faster, the whole village humming quietly with talk of Leah's art and of her growing friendship with Elias. Leah spent longer hours in the olive grove, sometimes sketching, sometimes wandering with Elias, as he inspected gnarled trunks and murmured names of wildflowers blooming at their roots. One afternoon, with storm clouds gathering over the distant hills, Leah found Elias mending a broken gate. She perched on a nearby stone and opened her sketchbook, restless. "Do you ever think about leaving?" she asked suddenly. He looked up surprised. "Leaving the village, or—" She shrugged. "All of it. Starting over somewhere no one knows your losses." Elias's brow furrowed. "I have sometimes, but the past is stubborn. Even if I left, I think I'd carry it with me." Something in his answer tugged at Leah's own fears. What about starting again with someone else, trusting that the pain won't come back? He set his tools down, joining her on the stone. "Are you asking for yourself or for me?" Leah met his gaze. "For both of us, maybe." The wind picked up, olive leaves shimmering. Elias reached out, hesitating only a second before threading his hand through hers. Everyone carries scars. Maybe they just need someone willing to see them, not flinch, and stay anyway. Leah swallowed, blinking back tears. "I'm scared, Elias, of falling in love, and of what happens if I stay, or if I go." He squeezed her hand, his voice barely a whisper. "Me too, but I want to try." A soft rain began to fall, but neither moved. They sat together beneath the sheltering tree, letting the world blur around them. In that sacred hush, Leah leaned her head on Elias's shoulder. The olive branches above tangled their worries and hope together, and for the first time, neither wanted to be anywhere else. As dusk crept in, a decision lingered between them, unspoken. Would Leah stay when her art was done? Would they risk everything on this slow, beautiful thing they'd begun to build? For now, Leah squeezed his hand tighter, trusting that the tree above them and the love carefully tended beneath it would help them find their answer. Late autumn arrived on a whisper, painting the olive leaves with silver and bronze. Leah's paintings, vibrant, heartfelt, hung in the cafe window, and word spread. A gallery from the capital requested an exhibition, offering her a chance to show her work far beyond the village. For days, Leah walked the olive rows in restless circles, the invitation in her pocket heavier than any stone. One evening, the village gathered for the final celebration of the season. Elias stood at the edge of the lamplight, watching Leah help Maria decorate the tables. He had heard the news, everyone had. When Leah finally approached, her heart pounding, she found him waiting beneath the olive tree. He cleared his throat, searching for words. "Maria says you're going to the city, that your paintings deserve a real audience." Leah's voice trembled, revealing her conflict. "They want me for the winter, maybe longer. It's a dream I never thought I'd have. But I never planned on finding you." Elias's face tightened with the effort of holding back what he wanted to say most, but he forced himself to nod. "I know. This place, me, I can't ask you to give up your dreams, Leah." Her eyes shimmered. "But I don't want to lose you. I don't know that I can leave." He took her hands in his, rough fingers gentle. The pain in his words nearly broke her, but Leah recognized the depth of his love in his willingness to let her fly. The moonlight spilled down, tangled between their joined hands. They stood like that for a long time, neither willing to say goodbye, both afraid of what distance might do to hope so newly born. Around them, the village's laughter faded, replaced by the hush of the olives swaying in the dark. Finally, Leah whispered, "Promise you won't vanish into the trees." Elias pressed a kiss to her forehead. "Promise you'll come back, when your heart knows where it belongs." Tears slipped down her cheeks. "I want both, a future in color and you." He nodded, brushing away her tears. "Then find your answer. I'll wait, Leah." As dawn broke on her final morning, Leah painted one last canvas beneath the olive tree. The two of them in sunlight, hopeful and unfinished. Then she packed her brushes and dreams. Then left, with her heart torn wide open by the possibilities ahead. The city was nothing like the village. Leah's days disappeared in a whirlwind of train rides, gallery openings, and whispered praise in languages she'd barely learned. Her art hung in white-walled rooms, drawing crowds who marveled at the shimmering olive leaves and the mysterious figure haunting the edges of so many paintings. Yet each night, Leah pressed her palm to the cold glass of her apartment window and closed her eyes, trying to remember the warmth of Elias's hand, the low rustle of olive branches, and the taste of fresh bread shared in dappled sunlight. Every letter from Maria brought a pang of longing, a photograph of the harvest, a note describing how Elias always looked at the road when the postman arrived. Winter bled into spring. Leah's show was declared a success, but something was missing. As she stood in the echo of applause, she realized her art, her real art, had not been the paintings on the gallery walls. It was in the gentle surrender of her heart, painted into every sun-warmed scene beneath that ancient tree. One day, sorting through her sketches, Leah found the unfinished canvas she'd painted the morning she left. She stared at the two figures, herself and Elias, bathed in sunlight, but not quite holding each other. It hit her then. Some stories weren't meant to be left open-ended. With her heart pounding, Leah packed her sketchbooks and boarded the earliest train. The journey home felt endless, her mind tumbling with memories and what-ifs. The village had shifted with the seasons, but the olive grove was unchanged. Leah hurried to the ancient tree, hoping, fearing. The breeze carried the scent of new grass and sun-warmed earth. There was laughter in the distance, children's voices, Maria singing. But beneath the tree sat Elias, carving a piece of wood, his posture as patient as always. He looked up, not shocked, but as if he'd simply been waiting through all the days and seasons, certain she would find her way home. Leah crossed the grove without a word and sat beside him. They didn't embrace immediately. They simply watched the branches sway overhead, then turned to look at each other. A slow, searching gaze that spoke of everything they'd risked and everything they still hoped for. Finally, Leah reached for his hand. "I'm home," she said softly, "if you still want me." Elias's answer was to pull her close, his arms sure and solid as the tree that had always sheltered them. As dusk settled, they remained beneath the olive tree, two souls who'd learned that love, like old roots and new blossoms, could weather every storm if they tended it together. The horizon glowed with promise, and for the first time, Leah knew she was exactly where she belonged. Beneath the olive tree, their story, in all its colors, was finally whole.